Do we have a choreographer for this show, or did you guys just come up with those sweet moves on your own?
That was all off the cuff. You got to see my lack of dance skills that clearly translated to every single stage I've been to.
Yeah, every night is dance rehearsal for life.
Oh, it was just like this just joyous moment. It was one of my favorite joyous moments. And then as you heard, there are many moments in the show, if you haven't seen it already, is when Taucy calls out a number and Dane signs the number and the audience member has a piece of paper with the number and that particular brilliant thing. Now, the second brilliant thing, I know Taucy knows it Dane knows it like this. What was the foreign currency one?
Not worrying about how much money you're spending on vacation because all international currency looks like Monopoly money.
Truly a brilliant thing. And then she holds up a piece of Monopoly money. And then what was the other thing? I heard part of it, but the audience member had a mask on.
1010. Which one was that?
I should have warned you guys in advance. That's okay. It was hard to hear. It was wonderful. Now I'm hearing something going on in the chat. What is this? So Dan, you got that last number for the, oh, so Dan, when you were at the show, you got the Monopoly money one? Awesome. I may ask you about that later. That's one of the things that's so great about this show, the audience participation, is if you want to participate just a little bit, you can get the card with the number, and when they say your brilliant thing, you read it off. Or you might be chosen to play Taucy's dad, or college professor, or girlfriend. Beautiful. It's so beautiful. Ah, so beautiful. Taucy, can you start us off? Because in a way, you were the one who started this whole show by bringing the script to Lisa. This was your idea. Tell us how you got introduced to this beautiful play.
I was doing another show in SF, so I had a lot of time. Also, hello, everybody. Good to see you all.
I forgot to introduce you guys. We'll do that in a minute.
No, that's okay. Hi, I'm Taucy.
Wait. Let me introduce. I can't believe I didn't introduce you. That's Taucy, in case you're wondering. Taucy Alabastro, fantastic actor and longtime favorite at City Lights. He was in Viet Gone. He was in The Merchant of Venice. He was in Stupid Effing Bird. So excited to have you back. Taucy is also just amazing with combining arts and technology, and he's helped so many arts organizations in the Bay Area kind of come into the modern world. And Dane is back after being in Eurydice in 2019, which was another beautiful bilingual production, English and American Sign Language. I can't believe I forgot to introduce you guys. Oh my God. And we're so happy to have you back. And Dane is also a professional interpreter. He is bilingual. Oh, is there another language, Dane, that I'm not mentioning?
Nope, just the one. Just English and American Sign Language, yep.
Yep. Awesome. And of course, our wonderful director, Lisa Millette, who is also our executive artistic director at City Lights. She directed the show. It was her idea to intermingle the American Sign Language with the English because she had directed Eurydice and it worked so well, but here we are. Okay, anybody else need to be introduced? I forgot. Hi, Chris. All right, Taucy, lay it on us. Tell us about how you got started with Every Brilliant Thing.
I was commuting on the train from San Jose to San Francisco almost daily for rehearsal and then showtime. So I had a lot of time to sit down and think about what I wanted to do in my life. And it was scrolling and checking other theaters because I'm always curious about how they're programming and what they're doing. And Ubuntu, which is now Oakland Theater Project, had the show. And I'd seen and had been inspired by a lot of one-person solo shows before, John Leguizamo probably being right up there as one of my favorite solo performers. And I read the synopsis, and I immediately purchased the play, and it arrived a week later, and I was able to read it on the train, and I was just took my breath away in a way that was just like, I had to put it down and really think about each moment that was happening in it. And I was thinking, well, I think City Lights would be an amazing place to have this. And so I think I immediately texted Lisa. I was like, hey, I just read this play. I think it'd be great there. Let me know what you think. And would love to have you on board and let's figure out what this might look like. And then Lisa got back to me a little bit later and was like, okay, I'll read it. I'll go buy it. I'll read it. And then it wasn't for, I don't know, another couple weeks. And I got a message just saying, are you sure you still want to like, you want to do this? I'm like, yes, because you get asked a question like that. And honestly, at that point, there's no pussyfooting around. You're either you do it and you jump in and you grow from that, whatever that experience is, or you say no and you possibly regret not committing to it. So yeah, it feels like it happened really fast, but I mean, I guess I read it, I don't know, in April, February, maybe before that, almost a year. Yeah. Thank you.
I couldn't remember if it was one of the shows that was postponed by the pandemic, but I don't think so. This was when it was always scheduled. Yeah. Yeah.
I think, I mean, Lisa, you can confirm this. I think that was part of the appeal as well, is that with Omicron, is it Omicron? Yeah. On the rise, there are a lot of shows in the Bay Area that were just completely getting shut down without fulfilling their full run. And so I think part of the appeal of a one-person show at the time was just you didn't have that much exposure to other artists and collaborators. And so the risk, at least on paper, looked not as high at the time, which is great.
Yeah, except that when you read it, you're like, oh, except the actor needs to be all up close and personal with all the audience members. So in a way, it felt really, when you really look at it, it felt even like it's a bigger cast.
Yeah.
The audience is the cast too.
I hadn't imagined it yet. I wasn't there, like I was still in the script world. It's like
totally. It unfolded like it kind of, like a ribbon or something.
Sure did.
And I remember even, I'm very honest with people and very transparent. And I remember telling Tassi, I was like, whoa, one person shows are really hard to sell. Like they're hard to sell. Mm-hmm. And that is not usually a driving force for me as an artistic director, but the truth is we're in a recovery period. And so that made me nervous, but I read it. I loved it. I was like, oh, Tassi's innate charm and communication skills and engagement and connectivity to other humans, just like perfect for this script. So then I was like, oh, I really want to do it. I know it might not sell really well, but I don't really care. And it also felt so, City Lights, because we love engagement, connecting with the audience so much. And this is like times 100.
Yeah.
And also we love breaking down the audience artist barrier business, that we're not separate. We're really human beings together, telling stories, sharing them together. You can't have one without the other. And that is this play. And here's the other weird thing. Look, I'm leaning in. I'm like, all right. It required a big stretch. And I feel like things have been really hard. And sometimes when things are hard, the best thing to do is give your artists, and when I say artists, I mean everyone. I mean the staff, I mean the designers, my marketing team, the people that work in the office, a challenge, something new and different that isn't the same old thing, because that can make people get excited again and jump into the deep end of the pool. And this play, how many people have not seen it? I don't want to mess anything up. Right.
Dang.
Oh, stop it, you kids.
I think everyone has, Lisa. I don't think there are any newbies here and newbies. Well, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So when I read it, and in the beginning of the script, it says that the audience should be seated in the most diplomatic way possible. Like that's written in the script. And I was standing in the theater looking at our seating, and I was like, Yeah, not so much. Not so much diplomatic, especially now that we have assigned seating. Yeah, that's not going to work. So I brought Ron in and I was like, Ron, how do we make this as diplomatic as possible? And then I also said, actually, I think it's imperative that the audience feels so in community that they also can see each other. And so we were like, would it be totally crazy if we just put all the chairs on stage? And I was like, let's do something crazy. I feel like this is a good time to do something crazy. And we lost 30% of the house, but honestly, with the pandemic, that is not that big of a deal because everybody's ticket sales are down 30 to 40% anyway. And I was like, let's do that because it sounds cool and different. And it is actually right for the storytelling. So honestly, I felt like because it was such a challenge and it made everybody go, what? We're doing what? We're going to block off our seats, that it got everybody like sort of reconnected to what we do. Like, don't worry about COVID. Don't worry about the money. Don't worry about the, how things are all weird right now. And we're testing every 2 seconds and we only have a third of our season pass holders that we used to. Let's concentrate on the art for a second. And this art is going to require some risk taking and some brave moves to tell the best story we can with these artists. And oh, by the way, let's bring Dane in and make it bilingual, which is also not in the script. And so everybody was like, uh-oh, hold on, Lisa's doing her thing again. But I felt like it pulled everybody together. So Tassie, I feel like I owe you one for bringing this puppy to me. Like, I just feel like it came at the perfect time for everyone, for the whole team. For the whole team.
You repaid me by saying yes.
Actually, I said, yes. Are you sure?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's good to question, right?
It's a lot of lines.
Yeah.
Well, Chris says in the chat, I can't imagine the show without Dane, and I absolutely agree. Lisa, tell us about, some folks here might not have seen Eurydice, so just tell us really briefly about how you brought in sign language, American Sign Language to Eurydice, and why you did that again here, and why you brought back Dane, although that's kind of obvious, because he's Dane.
Yeah. I'll be as brief as possible. I had wanted to do that for about 2 or 3 years before Eurydice. Wanted to do a bilingual show at City Lights, but I really wanted it to be integrated into the story. I always feel because engagement and connectivity and like getting into the story is so important to me. I always thought this kind of sucks for people that have to look over to the side for those interpreted performances. I always thought that. I thought like, well, how can you, if the stage is here and wait, I don't get that. And so I always wanted to find a way to have the sign language be more integrated and part of the storytelling. So I had been looking for a script for a long time where I could try to take this chance. And I'm just going to tell you guys, everybody around me thought I was insane. Everybody thought I was crazy. We don't do that. Deaf West does that. You don't speak the language. How are we going to get permission? We don't know enough actors that speak it fluently. Like, everybody thought I was crazy. And I was like, yeah, okay, I really want to do it. So when I finally found Eurydice, I was like, this is perfect. This is the right script. And so everybody was double cast, one that spoke English and one that spoke American Sign Language, but they were on stage at the same time. So they had a relationship with each other too. So there were 2 Eurydice, 2 Orpheus, 2 fathers, and they relate to each other and the other characters. And it was a huge risk. I think it ended up being quite beautiful. So after that show, I was like, can't wait to do it again, but it's got to be the right thing. And it did not hit me. And I asked permission from Sarah Rule to do it, FYI. So it did not hit me right away when I read the script, when I read Every Brilliant Thing that Tassie sent me. It didn't hit me right away. But after like the 3rd read, I was like, oh, you know what else we could do? And I was like, Dane, what are you doing? And I asked Tassie, is this okay with you? Because this is a one-man show and I'm suggesting bringing in a second. So yeah, I think the language is beautiful, beyond beautiful. I think it's universal in a way. I feel like it's innately theatrical. I think it helps break down barriers between communities that might not think that they understand each other, but really they can and do. I think that there are a lot of people that use sign language that actually it's not because they are hearing impaired or deaf. It's for other reasons now. Like there's just so many beautiful things about it. And now, just like Eurydice, I can't imagine the script without it. Like, to me, it goes like, here's this awesome play, and now here's this awesome play. And when I see it, I've seen it several times now, I'm like, I can't imagine not seeing those two artists and those two characters relate to each other in that moment, in that way, you know? So I don't know. Give me another 2 or 3 years, you'll find another one. And I just don't know which one it is yet, but I'm going to do it again because I love it.
And Dane,
I thought I was going to be short, but now I feel like that wasn't short. I shall mute myself.
No. I was just going to say too, Dane is a seasoned performer who performs in lots of other companies around the Bay Area as well. And so I don't think, however, that you always get to sign when you're performing. So that's a sign of you get to show in these productions.
Yeah, it's really an opportunity that I've only had very, very rarely in the time that I've been performing. I think, I just did a performance of Joseph where that was actually bilingual. Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. That was bilingual. We actually brought in a couple of deaf actors who just really enhanced the story of what that show is all about. I did it briefly when I worked with Sunnyvale Players in Rent. This was back in 2015 or 16, somewhere around there. And my character, I was in the ensemble, and my character got to add a little spattering of ASL in it. But other than that, I haven't really had the chance to do it until Lisa approached me with the idea for Eurydice. And really our friendship and this partnership that we have has just taken off from there. It's been brilliant. It's been a brilliant thing.
And I love the way you and Tasi interact on stage. I mean, I said I already had a favorite moment. I have lots of favorite moments. Another one of my favorite moments is when Tasi's character is going through something really tough, and Dane just kind of comes over and puts a hand on his shoulder. I know, there's Carol. Carol's losing her mind over there. I know, it's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful moment, and it's so like simple and pure. And yeah,
I mean, that's the best thing about it. I mean, working with Tasi alone, just without all the extra hullabaloo that we've got about, just working with Tasi alone has been the best thing about this play. I mean, I got to tell you, yeah, exactly. That's right, my man. Because he's so chill, he's so easy to work with, and he knows not to push himself. Because I see so many other actors push themselves to the brink, and it actually hinders their performance. But working with Tasi, we've only been able to enhance each other, and that's what's made the story that much better, in my opinion.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. Hey, before we move on, I want to show some photos. Our wonderful company photographer, Christian Pizzerani, does amazing work. He also is extremely prolific. I'm like, can I have about 40 photos? And he gives me 140. He's so great. So I have a few of my favorite production photos that our artists haven't seen yet. So I thought it would be fun to show those. Let me spotlight myself here. Now that is, of course, our beautiful team photo. Look at all you guys. So you can also see sound designer George Pasaras. You can see lighting designer, stage manager Ben Hemmen. You can see Ron Gasparnetti, our scenic designer, and Miranda Whipple, our props designer. Oh, and look, we can see our costume designer there too. Who's our costume designer for this show?
Lisa!
Lisa decided to be costume. What did you call yourself? Costume coordinator? Because we didn't really need a costume designer.
I didn't want to draw too much attention to it. So I'm like, I was really just like, what colors do you guys look good in? Is there something you usually get? Here's some money.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I love it.
And comfortable.
Yeah.
If only I had that in everyday life, huh?
Oh.
So here's another one you haven't seen. And there you are. Very comfortable, Tasi.
Super comfortable. Like, I'm looking at a meteor just fall from the sky.
This is one of the great audience participation moments in the show. We have Nancy Coleman. And now, Tasi, what's happening here? As if it weren't obvious. Tell us what's happening in this picture.
Well, without I guess everyone's here had a chance to see it.
I think everybody's seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, this moment is an interesting one in which I, through the power of words and where it is in the script, coax an audience member to get down on one knee and propose to me or the character. And I've not missed.
Nobody's ever said no. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Did you ever say no?
Me? No. It's a yes and world, baby.
And I see there are a couple of questions in the chat. I'll get to those as soon as we get through the photos. And that happens to be also, these photos were taken at our last dress rehearsal. That's why there's not a ton of people in the audience. Your girlfriend there is Nancy Coleman, one of our season producers. Yay, Nancy. All right, here's another one. Dane, tell us what's going on here. Do you remember this moment from the rehearsal?
Yes. These two lovely humans right here were the quote unquote old couple that Tassi sits next to during the early stages of the play. And we bring this huge list out on a wagon right here. And one of the items that we pull out is old people holding hands. So we look back every single time, we look back towards wherever the old couple is. In this case, happen to be these two. And they're like, holding hands, hold hands. And every single time it just garners this huge, just like loving response from everybody else. It's just like, oh,
sweet.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I don't even know if that's in the script to point out
Actually, no, it isn't.
as a
No.
callback, but I think where it is, and I think intuitively, if you're following along, it makes a whole lot of sense to, spotlight who you had picked out to be the old couple. I put in quotation because the character, upon meeting them, is 7. So
Yeah.
anyone, older would be technically an older couple for a 7-year-old.
Nice. I like this close up. It's just, you're so in tune right there. What's happening here in this moment?
Yeah, this is us too. After I bring out this list, we're just kind of going through all the entries that we have on there. We have a bunch of scraps in this little gray box up on top, and we're like, hey, what's this one? Oh, Mork and Mindy. We have my new sleeveless top, peeling off a sheet of wallpaper and one sheet, however that's worded. We're just naming off these random entries on the list.
Love it. Now, the last photo is definitely a spoiler. No one's seen this one because I didn't put these out in the world, but this is one of the last moments of the play. And it's so beautiful.
That's got to go to my website, I think.
Now, once the show closes and it's not a spoiler, sure. Lisa, you want to tell us who created the lights? I don't know if that was our lighting designer or a scenic designer. How did that all come together?
No, that was our lighting designer who also doubled as our stage manager, sweet Ben Hammond. This was I think one of the things that made this show feel so special was not only is it the opener of our 40th anniversary, but it was a really small, intimate group. There weren't very many of us. Ben is an amazing lighting designer and also stage manager and also on stage. Because this is such an intimate show, we put him on stage. And then I was like, yeah, I'll help them figure out what to wear. So here I'm the executive artistic director, the director, and the costume person. And then Miranda did we had of course Miranda and George with props and sound, and Ron is our resident set designer. But honestly, that's a really small group, because it's a tiny cast, and it felt very intimate. So we would really get into rehearsal, and it would just be, most of the time, the 4 of us, Dane, Tassi, Ben, and me, and we'd be like, well, I was thinking we could do this tonight. What do you guys think? It was so casual as long as we got the work done, and it just felt like friends creating art together. Mm-hmm. And I had just come off of Fun Home, which did not feel that way. I mean, they're all friends, incredibly beautiful human beings, so talented, but I had so few rehearsals to get so much work done that I had to be like, this is what we're doing, and this is where you're going, and cross downstage right, and turn your head on this line. Like, I had to just work it. And this was like, what do you think? How does that feel? Why don't we try this? You know, it was so organic feeling. And we all also were like, I liked that. I didn't love that. You know, can we shape this? Like, I feel like we need to work on this some more. Are you guys tired? Should we call it? And I couldn't do that at all with Fun Home. So I'm in my 22nd year right now. So in 21 seasons, I've never directed 2 shows back to back. And those 2 were so different. Those experiences were so different that it made me realize that, you know, art is just like all over the map, you know, and beautiful in so many different ways. But it's funny. I think that we artists get really nervous about being about simplicity and no theatricality and naked production values. I think we artists are like, are they going to freak out if they just come in and sit on a chair and listen to Tossie talk and Dane do some sign language? You know, I think we all get nervous about that. So I said, as a director, can we have just a couple of moments of magic? So I was the one that said, I want to give them ice cream afterwards. I want to give them oranges during. Can whoever gets moved from their date, like seriously, I want to offer them something free from concessions. Like, let's give them those little special things. But it was Ben and Ron, so lighting designer, set designer, that were like, we can't just put a bunch of chairs in a circle on stage and call it good. Like, we can't do that. So they came to me and they were like, we want to put LED strips on the floor and it's going to light up. And I'm like, really? Okay. How's that going to work with not only the actors walking on the stage, but the entire audience? I didn't think it was going to work because, and it didn't work at first because they put so much tape on them to protect them that you couldn't see the light. The light couldn't get through the tape. So we're at tech and I'm like, guys, like, how expensive was that? You know? And so, but then they figured out a way. And then Ron said, you know, people are so used to cup holders at City Lights. We have to have them have a place to put their drinks. And I was like, of course we do. You're right. People need a place to put their things. And so then he came up with that little plinth idea. And then he goes, how about this for magic? What if they light up at the end? And I'm like, yes, perfect. That's perfect. It's not distracting during, but it's the magic after. And it's the magic that the beautiful, brilliant things around us in the world gives us when we appreciate them. It was perfect. But I really didn't think that lighting up the floor thing was going to work. And they made it work. Bless their hearts, they made it work. And then the music became also another thing. Like,
yes, the music.
You know, on the page, you can tell that the jazz is really important. But once you like give it a moment and really give it its own space and realize that all of those elements together are required for the right storytelling, really. Like, I mean, you could do these guys could go out into the park and do it and it would still be amazing. You could do this show anywhere with nothing but them. You could. But it's just a little cooler if you can have, you know, some more elements. And I feel like the sound is really awesome too. So layering in just that patina of professionalism, but sparingly in this show, I think is a really lovely balance.
Well said. I want to bring in some of the questions from the chat at this point. And we've got Lisa, you always look like I talk too much, but we love to hear you talk. So don't look that way. We've got a good question from Barbara here. How much of the interplay between Tossie and Dane was planned and blocked? Yeah, because it always feels so just spontaneous and warm and lovely. Like, that's a great question. Who wants to take that one?
I will say that most of the like pre-planned, almost like a lot of the stories, much spur of the moment, just what happened there. So yeah, that was like Plain and Black. That was like almost nothing. It just happened organically, like Lisa had mentioned. So it was awesome.
You cut out a little in the middle there, Dane, but I think we got the idea. Lisa, did you want to comment on that question?
Yeah, I'll just
thoughtful.
add that I said it can't be a free for all every night.
Oh, okay.
We are doing
Sorry
a
about
play,
that. Am I back?
right?
Your
You're
video
still a
is
little
freezing.
frozen.
Yeah, your video
Yeah.
keeps freezing, but we can hear you. So that's important.
You're
It's
good
a-
now.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay,
This
got
is a tricky balance of like, it can't just be, I bought a ticket to hanging out for an evening with Tossie and Dane. I said that in rehearsal.
Although
I was
I
like-
would buy a ticket to that.
I said we have to still make it feel like they came to a play. So we need to have some things that are consistent. And there are light cues and there are sound cues that are on specific things in the play, like every other play. So near the end, like the last couple of weeks, I became a little bit more like, all right, we have to set this. We have to set this. You need to be here at this moment. Blocking. I was like, we have to set some things. The other thing is very interesting is that this play is basically in the round, and we don't do that at City Lights. It's very difficult to perform and direct actually in the round because your back is going to be to somebody almost all the time. And especially if you're doing something that is sort of realistic, it isn't presentational, that's hard because you have to make sure you're communicating to everybody, but you know that your back is going to be to somebody. And then you can't have your back to that many people if you're signing because you're communicating only in the front of your body. You don't even have your voice. So I was taking that into consideration all the time. And that's why we had these 3 areas that we called our power spots. And basically they were the 3 spots where the most people could see you at any given time. But that balance of, I wish that you two were closer together more often, or it didn't bother me, I could listen to one and watch the other. And the dynamics of, I'm a stage director. So, I like dynamic pictures, and you can't just have them going like da, 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 for 90 minutes. Like that's just not going to be entertaining. So sometimes they're together, that spin that they do, and they touch each other on the shoulder, very, very blocked.
That spin was
They
lovely.
found it, but I'm like, you do it every single time. So it was very organic, but then when we found things, we're like, that is exactly how you do it every time. And then at the very end, music, looking at each other, vinyl record, it's brilliant, totally blocked. And then cues happened because of it. So it's a nice combination. But for a while there, I knew that it's hard for actors to not have points of, what am I trying to say, you guys? Points of like, you
Landing
can't just
points.
free for all it. You can't. Like,
Yeah, there needs to be some type of structure, and I think
Yes.
that having the power spots were super helpful. And I see Dan mentioning the blocking and toss position on stage changed when interacting with some audience members, and yeah, every night is that challenge of where do I deploy a specific type of energy to a specific quadrant of audience members who, as I'm telling the story, I'm also collecting data basically on like the interaction. And sometimes just because someone isn't outwardly showing it doesn't necessarily mean they're not like super engaged. It just means like maybe I need to ease off the pedal because it's sensitive, or the comedy might ring truer on this side, and is a permission for other people to laugh as well. So it's kind of tricky, especially like right up at the top of the show. If you don't quite get the buy-in of I can laugh during this moment, then you spend the next an hour 25 just in pain. And
which
so,
never happened.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
thankfully, knock on wood.
we also have an expression in theater, or I guess in performance in general, go back to one, right? So back to one is like a restart, like go back to there's a back to one. And I needed Dane and Tossie to have places where they could go back to one, even in the middle, because interacting with audience members, we didn't know where that was going to take them. So those scenes could have taken them anywhere, emotionally, physically, psychologically. So once they got through those little vignettes with audience members, I wanted to give them back to one. And so they needed some regroup of blocking. When we're done with the scene, we know we go back to one, which is a different place, but it's a blocking piece so that they can let go. We're on to the next section. And I felt like they needed that so they could feel grounded.
Yeah, especially because everybody that we choose to be our characters, our like added characters, our ensemble, they're in different spots every single night. I mean, our dad could be in one corner right next to one of our power spots on one night. It could be completely on the opposite side of the room the other night. So really knowing that we have those spots to like return to back to one really did help in kind of our own blocking process.
Yeah, yeah. Joyce has a question in the chat, which coincidentally was basically about the same question I was going to ask. So thank you, Joyce. How did you pick your audience member? So I was interested to hear about the process that you go through at the start of the play. You're almost kind of vetting your audience in a way. You come out in the lobby and you're looking for people, and you need to find someone who's wearing socks, and you need to find this and that. Tell us about how you kind of get the idea of who really wants to play.
I mean, it just starts with the hello, welcome. And however that response is shared back gives me and Dane an immediate idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then that idea, we either continue to pursue it if we were like, yeah, actually that sounds fine, and then we have another sense of interaction with them as we explain the play and explain the responsibility that they might have if they have a list number. And then Dane and we huddle in a corner and we kind of peer out.
They're like, okay, who's going to be our victims here?
Yeah. Yeah. Who feels game tonight? And also like, I'm also looking out for us too, in that, like, I don't want to put us in a position where anyone feels, bad in any way, right? For saying no, and then having to move on to another person. And then it's not unusual to call an audible as I'm saying the words and deciding who I'm going to go to. Sometimes, and I'll let you guys in since you're here spending an evening with us, sometimes I forget because it takes a great deal of focus to stay upright in those moments. And then other times, in the interaction and through the course of the storytelling, I realized like, oh, this person here seems really more responsive to what's happening. And I'll just kind of, make that choice at that point. And that's for the sock. Sometimes I like, it doesn't have a sock.
But we always have one on standby. We have a sock on standby.
Have you had to use a standby sock? Have you just handed somebody a sock?
Yeah, could we technically say that's our third actor?
The sock.
The swing understudy sock. Oh, I should maybe take a headshot of that sock. Oh yeah, Lisa first. But yeah, Dane and I have a quick chat, and then Ben gives us the go ahead to do what we have to do, and we get rocking and rolling.
Can you share some of your favorite audience moments where you just really felt like, oh, this person's really in the story? Or, I mean, I'm sure you have a million of them.
Oh yeah, the first one that definitely comes to mind was opening night. The dad, he was wearing a Dodgers jersey of all things, like a Dodgers a jacket of all things.
Robert Ames.
He's like, Robert, yes, thank you.
Yeah, Coach Ames.
Like his name, yes. But he came out. He's like, okay, why not? Hey, I've got 7 kids. Why not? I'll take one more. And he just got so into the character, it just blew my mind. I just sitting back. I'm like, Yes. Yes, 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 yes. It was like that was a perfect fit. Boom, job well done. Next.
Oh, he was so great. And I called him afterwards because he's been a long time pass holder. And no, actually, did we talk on the phone? Yeah, we talked on the phone. And he said, that's a night I'm never going to forget. He said he felt so honored to be chosen. He felt just really, he felt special. And you guys made an unforgettable night for him. It's wonderful.
That's great.
How about you, Tassie? Do you have moments that stand out with audience participation?
Yeah, I think because it's so well, okay. Some of the vets that we've had took it real serious, which is great. And basically bought into the imagined reality that I'm 7 and took the time to speak to me as if I was this child really there, and would elaborate on different things to do that, are you okay? Do you need to step out of the room? Just very thoughtful questions to ask someone who might be experiencing that for the first time. And, my job at that point is to just listen and find a solution that serves the story, basically, whether that's like accepting a hug or giving a hug after. I think there was one participant who recently, before seeing the show, had to do that. And so I offered them a hug after the interaction because what's a kind thing to do. And yeah, that's probably one of my favorite ones. I have another one that I share, but you'll have to ask me next time you see me in person. Or send me an email. What about you, Dan?
Oh, sorry, did you say? Oh, wait, we got some stuff in the chat here. Dan said the dad in the first performance I saw was great, especially with all the whys.
That's Robert Ames. That was Robert.
Yeah, that was Robert. Yeah. And where they're having to say why over and over again like a little child, but the ones that I've seen, they say it differently every time, which is kind of what you would tell an actor at that point. Like, don't just say why. And there was just meaning in every single why. I will tell you that the scene with the dog being put to sleep, at that last dress rehearsal, both the photographer and we had lost our dogs in the past year, and both of us were just like, I gotta take a moment. And then, and in the next moment I'm laughing. I laughed so hard in that last rehearsal, you actually stopped the show and turned to me and said, oh, good, you got that joke. And that's one of the beautiful things about that show, because you can be in tears one minute and feeling like this show sees me and sees what I have gone through. And then the next you're laughing so hard. We got a nice comment from Carol in the chat. Carol said, my friend Kim saw the show and I asked her what she thought. And her first sentence in so much excitement was, I got to say roller coaster in a play.
Really quick. Sorry to interject. My friend Kim, I love her to death. She is one of the smartest electrical engineers I've ever met. And she's just very STEM oriented. And she was my roommate for a long time. So she came to a lot of City Lights things to support me. And since I moved out of San Jose, she still tries to go to City Lights things. And I was so excited to hear what she thought of Every Brilliant Thing, just from a non-artist perspective. And the fact that when I said, what'd you think of the play? And her first response was, I've never heard her more excited. She's like, I got roller coaster. And she was thrilled. So you enjoyed the show? And she said, yes, it was. She said it was one of the most humanizing experiences that she's ever had. And I was like, is that a good thing? Is that a good thing, Kim? And she paused and she's like, yeah, it's a great thing. It's a great thing.
Oh, nice.
And I love that story. And Kim knows that I tell this story.
Love it.
And let me just mention here too, other people, if you have questions to ask, you can type them into the chat or raise your hand, unmute yourself. We're happy to hear your voices and see your faces. So you don't have to wait your turn. It's all good. Yeah, I remember what I said opening night too, because my Every Brilliant Thing was things with stripes. And I got to say it more than once, and that was exciting. And I'm an actor, and I was thrilled because I got to say a line.
And you got to sign it too. things will
Mhm.
start.
I did. Yeah. That's another thing that's great is that you learn so many signs as an audience member in that show. And I think some people might think when they're going to see a show, well, American Sign Language, okay, but that isn't part of my life. I don't know it. So am I going to get anything out of that part of the show? Am I going to even watch Dane? Am I going to be just focused on Tassi? But it's all woven together. It's all woven together so beautifully. Dan also said in the chat he was glad he got to see the show twice because the second time he got to focus more on Dane's performance. And that's a really interesting perspective, and it makes me wish I could see it again. That's really nice. Thank you for sharing that, Dan. Anybody else have other questions? Sorry, I just hit my microphone. Anybody else have other questions? I have a few more. If not, I always have questions.
I
Do
have
we
another
ever-
question.
Yeah, go ahead, Carol.
Sorry. So, what is something to Tassi, Dane, and Lisa that you're going to take from this show into future shows? Because this is a special show in many ways. And I know for me as an actor, there's always something from each production I'll take to the next one. So if there is something for you, what is it?
I mean, I think one of the big reason I wanted to do it was I just wanted to stretch. And so, yeah, I do have things that I take away with me. And I think one of it is just the knowledge that I can do it. And the confidence is sort of baked in. And you know, sometimes it's nice to hear validation from your peers and colleagues about your work, but I don't think you can really use that in a way that is sustainable to your artistry. And so part of it is like, okay, if this doesn't kill me, you know, that whole thing, then I'm going to come out a better person, better storyteller. And, you know, just like, oh, I can memorize a 39-page monologue. Like I didn't know, you know? And so I think, and deepening, I think actually really important, deepening my relationship with City Lights. And City Lights is San Jose, where I live. So that's always really important to me. And yeah.
I think for me, the biggest takeaway can be playing a character is easy, but playing is the most difficult thing you can do. And it's okay. So like, and also not only that, but also being in a room where you're completely vulnerable with yourself, that's the best way to be real. Okay, so let me repeat what I just said. I know I was breaking up a little bit. Playing a character is easy, but playing yourself is the most difficult thing you can do. And that's the best way you can stretch yourself. That's the best way you can really kind of show your mettle as an actor, as a performer, but also as a human being, because far too often we tend to lose that when watching a performance. We're seeing, okay, there's this guy, he's putting on this facade here, he's playing a completely different character, but strip all that away. That's when you can be real with yourself and with everybody else in that room. And being real is the most beautiful thing you can do.
Well, I would say that after all of the challenges of the last 2.5 years, that this play really solidified for me that I need to just keep trusting my instincts, and that being real is the most important thing. And that if it doesn't kill me, it will make me a better person and storyteller. Thank you, Tassi. And that sometimes it doesn't matter like what everybody else is doing. Like most of the time, it doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. That I should not be afraid. And that if my stomach and my heart says, oh, let's do this. This sounds so good. That's what's important. That's what's important. The what it gives to what it gives to Dane and to Tossie and to Ben and to Ron and to George and Miranda and to me and to an audience and to any audience that comes and sees it. And even if it is only 48%, that 48% has been touched in a very real way. And when did it become that we judge things by the volume instead of the quality? And I don't know. This time has been so hard on arts organizations, but this show empowered me like crazy. I just thought, I get so many emails and text messages and saying that show touched me in a way that I just have not felt in so long in a theater. Like, this is what, this is what it's all about. Like, when I don't even remember pre-pandemic feeling that way for so long before. And I was like, yeah, I thought so. Like, my instinct, Tossie brought this to me. I always give you credit, dude. But I'm like, my gut said, do it. I don't care if it's hard, if it's weird, if if we lose 30% of the house, if it's, I feel like it's right. And I need to just trust myself more and just say, the shrug emoji. It's okay if it isn't like what everybody else is doing. And being brave and staying true to yourself and the art that you want to make. Like, life is too short. Like, let's just do that. And if we're meant to still be here at the other end, then we will. And, so this show filled my heart. So what did I learn? Just keep doing these things. No selling out.
Well said, as always. Dane, what's the sign for shrug?
Keep it simple. That's how we do it. That's it.
That was not my most brilliant question I've ever asked.
Hey, I always say the only stupid question is the one you don't ask. So thank you for asking.
Well, really quick, Dane, I've been doing this as thank you. Am I correct? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, it comes right from the chin. There you go.
From the chin.
Thank you.
Yes, just not down here. That's the bad one. No, here. There you go.
Thank you.
There
Well,
you go.
thank you for helping me clarify that, because I've been doing like this all night. Thank you. I'm learning.
You are.
All right.
Anyone who doesn't know Carol, who doesn't know Carol? Carol is our marketing and executive assistant, and we love her and we miss her because she's working from Dallas, her home in Dallas. But we see her sometimes on opening night. Before we wrap up, does anyone else have questions for our wonderful artists? All right, artists, can you tell us about any next projects? Where can we see you next? Obviously, we've got one more weekend of Every Brilliant Thing. So, tell everyone you've ever met that we close on Sunday. But after that, anyone have any projects they want to talk about so we can go see you and support you further?
Well, I'm currently waiting to hear back from a couple of callbacks that I had recently. Those are still, I'm not trying to jinx anything like that, but keep your fingers crossed for me.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of at the tail end of a 3-month-long span of just nothing but rehearsals and performances. So I'm going to enjoy a little bit of a break. I do have some performance interpreting gigs I have coming up soon. I'm doing Beauty and the Beast with Palo Alto Players. I've got Little Shop of Horrors with TheaterWorks. And I've also got the national tour of Beetlejuice coming in.
Ooh.
I know, right? And also I've got some gigs coming up with the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus. So they're going to tour all over the Bay Area. I'm going to help them out at some point. So it's going to be pretty cool. It's fun.
Great.
Love that, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. How about you, Tossie? Anything to report?
Yeah. So the week after this, I am doing a stage reading at the Pear for their Pear Produce Festival, which is highlighting new plays. And then the week after that, I start rehearsal in SF at ACT. So very excited to jump in. I mean, talk about a whiplash going from, like just myself and Dane and Ben on stage to, I don't know, a cast of 30 maybe.
What show is that at ACT?
Oh, A Christmas Carol.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, it hasn't been officially announced, so.
Oh, okay. We didn't hear it.
But I think they're doing press release pretty soon. Yeah, I'm excited. It'll snow, sort of.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
great, Tassie.
Thanks.
Good stuff. And Lisa, you're just gonna, continue running City Lights in your spare time.
Yeah, I'm gonna just continue running City Lights and try to support the guest directors between now and I'm directing Kinky Boots.
Kinky Boots, our summer musical. Awesome.
And
That's
I
great.
have to say that's a big one. Like I'm like, oh, you better do some prep work. That's a monster, a big one. Yeah, I'm like toying with auditioning for one of our shows just because it's our 40th anniversary. But I also feel a little bit like, because I don't know if all of you on this call know, but I was an actor first. Like before anything, like that's what I went to school for. So like every 3 or 4 years, I always feel like, yeah, maybe I should do a little project just to get grounded again on why I'm here doing this, like why storytelling is so important to me, because it started from a performance background and that desire. So I'm toying with auditioning for one of them, but we'll see. I always feel so busy, but it wasn't my idea. It was the director's idea. So, but I'm like, oh, maybe I should because it's the 40th anniversary. So we'll see. But definitely
do it.
But definitely Kinky Boots directing this big summer musical. So
That's going to be a good one to look forward to. Our next main stage show is the Thanksgiving play, which is a very smart satire about some woke teaching artists trying to create a Thanksgiving play that doesn't offend anyone. I saw it here in Oregon. Yeah, we live all over the place. I live in Oregon. I saw it in Oregon a few years ago and just loved it. So I'm excited it's coming to the City Lights stage. First time in the director's chair for us at City Lights is Ronit Aliza Rahamim, and she is a very popular actor on our stage. Dan's nodding. Yeah, so you've seen her in Merchant of Venice, Handle with Care, Frankenstein, a lot of shows. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And so we will have a next stage talk back for that. I haven't scheduled it yet, but it'll probably be end of November, beginning of December. So we'll be back here.
And I think I can tell you, I don't think this is going to be a big deal, but I think I can tell you that there are only 4 actors in that show. And this is always kind of fun for me to just sort of expand the family. But I think 3 of them have never been on stage with us before.
That's right. 3 are new. 3 are new. And the other one is Keenan Flagg, who we adore.
Like 3 new, and then Keenan, who's like, everybody's brother.
Everyone loves Keenan. Yeah. Keenan was on the next stage the first year we did it, showing his ceramics. He was throwing pots. That was a lot of fun. He was in Eurydice. He was in Miss Bennet Christmas at Pemberley, and he assistant directed The Hollow. He's just wonderful. And the other 3 are brand new. I don't know them at all. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'm trying to schedule a photo shoot. So you'll see an announcement about that once we get it scheduled.
I think it's good for us to have that balance,
I think it's great.
And see, and people you're like, oh, I don't know them, and
and working with Ronit as a director when we used to working with her as an actor, that's kind of fun.
Yeah, and that came from her. That's the other thing I think that we do that a lot of people don't is we listen. She wants to try that, and she wants to do that more. And I'm like, I respect you as an artist, so let's do that. Let's do that together. So she's very instinctually talented. So
yeah, and the playwright is Larissa Fasthorse, and she's fantastic, and it's a really funny script. So that's coming up in November, 3rd week of November. And I think we're about at time, unless anyone else has anything brilliant to say.
I wanted to shout out really quick that I love this show so much, and I've caught myself in my everyday life saying, like, I got a great parking spot. That's a brilliant thing. And just like little things like that, and with some shows it affects me more than others. But I think what Lisa is saying is that after the pandemic and all of that and it's City Lights 40th, this show, there's something about this show that every day I'm like, oh, that was a good first sip of Dr. Pepper. That's a brilliant thing. Like,
Yeah, no, totally. Because Ron Gasparnetti, our scenic designer, when I was at the theater last month, he came up to me and he said, quick, I need a brilliant thing. And I didn't even think about it. I was like, mint chip ice cream.
Yes, Rebecca.
My favorite. Yes.
Yes, mine
good
too.
one.
And once if you start thinking along those lines and you notice all these little things, and it's like the little victories or the little bright spots in your day.
The whole thing. And my husband loves coffee, and we got a fancy espresso maker for our wedding. And he one day came to me and he said, the espresso it just poured so perfectly today. And he paused and he said, am I right in saying that that's in every brilliant thing? Did I do that right? They said, yes, you did that right.
The
This
perfect
espresso is a
pour.
brilliant thing. The perfect
There you go.
espresso pour.
It's
Yeah.
perfect
Coffee.
espresso
Yes.
pour.
Coffee.
Love it.
Totally
think
think that's lovely, Carol. And I'm sorry, Dan, that I was just about to say that too. There are hundreds of index cards on that prop right now from audience members. And that just fills my heart. Hundreds. I came to see the show on Sunday and I hadn't seen it for a bit. And I asked them to put them by the show date with ribbons. And when I was there on Sunday and it came out on stage and they like stick them in different places with the ribbons. And I was like, oh shit, there's so many. And then I was like, Ben, how many? And he's an engineer. So he was like, so I'm calculating, there's about 1.3 cards per audience member per night. And I'm like, wow, that's awesome. So when we ask people to write a brilliant thing, they do it. They want to. And to me, like that right there, oh shit, I'm gonna cry, is the reason for doing this play.
Yes.
There's so much grief right now. And that right there, how many theater companies do you know where an audience would be like, please give me an index card because I'm going to write down and give to you something that I think is brilliant about the world right now. There are hundreds.
Mm. Oh, what are we
so
going to do
cool.
with them? What are we
Oh yeah,
do
we're
with
gonna,
this
no,
show?
yeah, we're already scheming. Tassie was like, I have ideas. And Ben was like, I'll scan them and give them to you, Tassie. And I'm like, great. Now I don't have to do it.
That's pretty good impersonation. That's solid.
Oh yeah.
Very
Thanks.
much. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Piggybacking on what Lisa said, I always encourage every audience member to take one. Then I say, take one, take two, take five, take 50 if you want to. But everybody always writes something down, and they can't write it on just one card. They have to add multiple cards. And really, it's just collecting everything at the end of the night. It's just like, this many people had this many brilliant things, and they're just laid out all over that entire list that we have out there. It's so beautiful. So beautiful to see everybody just kind of coming together and saying, hey, this is brilliant.
Yeah, I think
So I just want to say thank you really quick to
Yeah.
everyone for bringing that into my life, because it is a small thing that I do where I'm like, oh, that's a brilliant thing. And it makes me smile. I'm like, yeah.
Make sure you write it down.
Oh, I should start doing that.
Mhm.
I'll make a spreadsheet, give it to Ben.
Brilliant things from Texas to add to the list.
Tassie, did you want to say something else? You look like you were coming up with something.
Oh no, I think we just need to thank you, Carol, and let's always try to find reminders for ourselves to give ourselves permission to celebrate, you know, the things that we may overlook every day.
Yes.
You know, I think that's it. Sometimes, I don't know, the way I feel sometimes is like, oh, I can't, it's literally in the play. I don't think I can feel happy about something because this other stuff seems like it's got a lot of gravity to it. But, you know, I think the more we take care of ourselves, the more we can take care of other people. Yeah. Brilliant.
I can't top that. Thank you, everyone, for for being here tonight. Thank you for seeing the show. Thanks for seeing the show twice, Dan. That's awesome. Chris, we miss you. Oh, Chris getting a little choked up? We're all getting a little choked up. Yeah, yeah. It's a really, really special show. And it's a special organization. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. This was just lovely. And we'll welcome you back soon.